we see a story that comes out of basically from the Alabama Justice Project, which has obtained documents that reveal that the Dothan, Alabama Police Department, their internal affairs investigation ongoing for years of police malfeasance and racism was apparently covered up by the district attorney there. Tell us more about this.
Well, for those people who don't know, Dothan, Alabama is the epitome of, kind of small southern town, almost like what you would see in My Cousin Vinny. I mean, that's the kind of place that Dothan is, and I'm not saying that in a negative way at all. I've been there. It's lovely, but it is a very small Alabama town. And as early as 1996, the police department started getting complaints from African Americans who had been arrested, and they said, look, I'm being charged with having drugs on me, having weapons on me. I had none of this stuff. I don't know where this came from. I don't know why these charges are even here. So 19 years ago, they start hearing these complaints, and they decide 2 years after that, in 1998, when you finally had a group of white police officers come forward and say, look, I've witnessed some officers here planting guns, weapons, knives, and drugs on African-American suspects. But here is where the story gets even worse, even for Alabama, because it's bad enough that they're planting these things on African-American suspects just to be able to arrest them. Many of these people are still in jail, even though these charges were completely untrue. But it turns out that all of the officers doing this are part of a group that the Southern Poverty Law Center has labeled as racial extremists. They were all neo-Confederates, borderline neo-Nazis, who believed that African Americans and Jewish people had lower IQs, were less, I guess, of humans than regular white people, according to these police officers. And these are the people running that police station there in Dothan. One of them goes on to become the Alabama Homeland Security chief. I mean, these people, we talk about what happened in Chicago, we talked about what happened in Baltimore, St. Louis, Alabama. This racism is persistent throughout almost all, there's nowhere that's immune to it, I guess is what I'm trying to say here. But this Dothan story is truly ugly because we have a police department that is being run by neo-Confederate racists, putting black people in jail for crimes that they did not commit. We know they did not commit them, and yet those people are still, to this day, rotting away in a jail cell.
Yeah, really shocking, and I imagine we're going to see a federal involvement there. I mean, look, the bottom line is, Farron, we have a problem in this country, a severe problem with our police departments across the country in terms of the way they police African American communities in this country, and we see it in the numbers of arrests of African Americans when we know for, let's say, for marijuana, when we know that white people smoke marijuana at the same rates of African Americans. We see it in the numbers of unarmed African Americans who are killed by the police. And despite the fact that Donald Trump would have you believe that the biggest issue is black on black crime, I mean, I want folks to imagine for a moment. Put aside any statistics of black on black crime, totally irrelevant. Because we're not talking about what happens with who criminals choose to kill or commit crime against. We are talking about the institution that is ostensibly designated and paid in society to protect all citizens. And when that institution is not only not protecting a certain segment of our citizenry, but in fact is a threat to a certain segment of our citizenry, one can only imagine, and one doesn't have to imagine, you can listen to what black people are saying about this. But as white people, we can only imagine what the implications are to knowing that not only can we not go to the police when we have to deal with a criminal or a problem that we're having, but that if we see police, we are necessarily threatened by them. I mean, it would be irrational for a black person at this point not to feel in the pit of their stomach some measure of threat when they see a police car light up their lights, or a policeman walk down the street. I mean, we've just seen too many examples of this. And it would be an irrational response not to have some measure of concern or fear or awareness that you don't have the same protection as a white person has. I mean, and this is really, one can only imagine, like I say, the impact this has on a daily life on our segment of our population.